Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today, we've got another Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 video for you. And today, we are going to be talking all about spontaneous spellcasting. So let's get started. Basically, there's a lot to spontaneous spellcasting. There is, let's go over it bit by bit. So what is spontaneous spellcasting? Well, it's when you are able to cast your spells spontaneously, as in you don't have to prepare them. You can just cast whatever you want on the spot because that's what the situation calls for. There's certain classes that are, particularly good at that, namely like the Sorcerer. Their Sorcerer is probably the best known, but there are plenty of others that can do it. I believe the Bard is also a spontaneous spellcaster. There's numerous others. Heck, even things like the Cleric are capable of some degree of spontaneous spellcasting. That's kind of what it is. It's just when you don't have to prepare. They don't use spell slots. They just have a set number of spell slots per day, and they just use those spell slots whenever they need one. I don't know if I think I might have said they don't use spell slots. They definitely do. Anyways, so some things that are similar to prepared spell casting, you still do need rest. You are typically going to need to rest for 8 hours before you're able to spontaneously cast spells to have them reset, as well as to spend a few minutes doing whatever it is that your particular class says you have to do to just kind of ready your mind to be to the fact that you're going to be spell casting. And that's really all you need. You don't have to pick specific particular stuff. You just have to kind of like focus on like the spells and be like, yeah, I got this. If these come up, this is what I got. You got to get yourself in the right headspace. It varies from class to class though. Some classes might not even need to do that. Now, the one tricky one that it really gets you with I just started to say it, with spontaneous spellcasting is meta magic. So meta magic and spontaneous spellcasting are tricky. The thing is, normally when you prepare a spell with a meta magic feat, you're applying it ahead of time, and therefore it's all good. You're doing all that prep. It takes a little bit of prep work to apply that meta magic feat to the spell. Because it changes your spell, and it adds to the spell level. But you're doing that during that hour in which you're preparing, so it's not really a big deal. You just kind of consider that part of the hour. Who cares about the extra couple of seconds that it took? Even per spell compared to an hour, it's kind of meaningless. You could just get chunked up into that hour. But with spontaneous casters, that's not the case. So there you have to apply it on the fly, which will make it so that if it's a standard round action, it'll move to a full round action. Which it is a full round action, not a full round, meaning it will come out on that same turn. So if you have a spell that's a standard action, you apply a meta magic feat, say Empower to it, like Empowered Fireball. You don't say, oh, I'm going to start casting Empowered Fireball. No, you cast Empowered Fireball. It just takes you the whole turn. I guess you still have a swift action as well as, free actions. But for the most part, you're going to be spending the whole turn doing that. Now, there's ways around this for sure. There are definitely some feats out there that will allow you to cast meta magic feats spontaneously without going a full round action, but it is a bit tricky. It does take a decent number of feats and resources and all that. Other things that are relevant in such a situation, we also have to look at longer spells. So if a spell is full round action, you add, or longer, you add an extra full round action to it. So if you were to cast Summon Spell, which typically is a full round action, this would then be 2 full rounds. And that one actually is a full action, which would take to the next round. So in this case, there's in this case, I don't know if it would come out on the third turn or not. I'd imagine probably not. You just wouldn't get your turn. So you'd spend 2 full turns and it'd probably come out at the end of the second turn, not at the start of the third. But still, that's a long time. You're spending a lot of time casting that. That would also even apply to something that's like a 10-minute casting time, which 10 minutes is 100 rounds, so it would take 101 rounds or 10 minutes and 6 seconds. Now, granted, that's almost never going to matter. Like, who cares about an extra full round action when your casting time is 10 minutes? Like, the odds of that making a difference at all is pretty low, but it is something that would apply. Even if the spell is like 2 days long, well, now it's 2 days, 1 round if you applied meta magic feats to it. But, like, so what? It's a long time. Yeah, so that's basically how that works. There are, of course, feats that can change things like that, but for the most part, anytime you spontaneously cast a spell, it will use up it will increase it to a full round, unless it already is a full round, in which case it will bring it to an extra full round. So that's a thing. Now, again, some similar stuff with prepared spells. If you happen to cast a spell before, the time when you like reset your spells, if you had cast any spells within 8 hours of that, you will not reset those spells. Getting attacked in the night is generally when that happens, when you have to worry about that, and that's why night raids really suck for spellcasters, because any spells that they cast during a night attack count for both the previous day and the day after, basically. So that can be rough. That can be really rough, because basically when you're attacked in the night, you're still on the previous day's spells, so you only have what's left from the day before. But then also any spells that you actually use, you won't get refreshed when you refresh them the next day. So you'll be out that spell for the next day as well. So that's brutal. Now, spontaneous casters don't learn new spells outside of what their class says. So when they level up in their class, they'll gain new spells as dictated by the table that they have. And sometimes they'll get to pick their spells. Sometimes, like for instance, if we're talking about like a war mage, they will just get all the war mage spells. So, which is a somewhat limited list. But yeah, when they level up and gain new spell levels, suddenly they learn all the spells in that level. But yeah, it's really just what that is. And I think War Mage even lets you like add a couple of spells from the Sorcerer Wizard list, but not many. Most of the ones that do that do like Beguiler too, a few other things. Now there's also other stuff like what I hinted at before, things like a Cleric can cast, healing. A good Cleric or one with a good deity can cast healing spells spontaneously. An evil Cleric or one with an evil deity can cast inflict spells and spontaneously. Druids can cast summon nature's ally spontaneously. Basically, they give up a prepared spell, and in place of that prepared spell, they cast the spell that they're choosing to cast spontaneously. So they are basically swapping out a spell that was readied in their mind for something that wasn't, which is an interesting little mechanic that certain classes have access to. Basically, when you do that, you're going to follow all these rules that I just described. But beyond that, you're still, you had that spell slot that was prepared for something that's now gone, as if you'd lost the spell. So the rules get a little weird and muddied when you do that. So if a cleric had prepared, a third level spell like Daylight, and he decided that he wanted to cast cure critical wounds, or serious wounds. Yes, cure serious wounds instead. Now he could do that, and because serious, I believe, is the third level one. Critical and serious always mix up their name. Pretty sure critical is the fourth. Anyways, so he were to cast that. Basically, he would lose his daylight spell as if he had cast it, but in exchange, he would gain cure. He would get the cure. The cure serious wounds would go off, and he would be able to heal himself or an ally for 3d8 plus 15. So yeah. Well, assuming he's 15th level or higher. If he's less than that, then 3d8 plus caster level cap 15. But yeah, that's basically how that would work. Same with like a druid, if they were to summon Nature's Ally 3 instead of a 3rd level spell that they had prepared, they could do that, and it would work the same way as what I just described. So yeah, and of course if you want to play magic feats to that, then that will up the casting time because it is a spontaneous spell. But yeah, that's basically all there is to spontaneous spells. What's cool about spontaneous spells over prepared is you can cast whatever you want. Like, if you happen to, like, you have all these actually there's way more. I don't know why I said that's basically it. There's definitely more to talk about. I don't know about way more, but there's definitely more. So yeah, you can cast whatever you want. So you have so many 3rd level spell slots. You need to use Fireball, use Fireball. You need to use Daylight now? Okay, you can use Daylight, that's fine. I'm pretty sure that's a Sorcerer Wizard one. Maybe I'm mixing up different casting lists. Or say Summon Monster 3. Okay, yeah, you could use that. Those are all 3rd level spells. Yeah, so you can just kind of mix and match, kind of do whatever you want. It's not a big deal. You can always use a spell slot for a higher level spell if you want to do that. So, say for instance you have a 4th level spell, you can cast a Fireball with your 4th level spell. You're not going to gain any benefits for it. Now, you could apply a meta magic feat if you wanted, which would up the casting time, but you could do that. You could apply the heightened meta magic feat, which just makes it count as a 4th level spell. Not really a huge difference, really, since that doesn't accomplish a whole lot. I guess makes the spell save DC 1 higher to heighten it, and would be a little harder to no, it wouldn't be any harder to dispel. Just make your spell save DC a little higher, so that the reflex save was a little harder. So I guess that's something. But yeah, it's basically fairly simple, straightforward stuff for the most part. Now, of course, just like any spellcaster, if you don't have a stat high enough, like say you want to cast an 8th level spell, you would need to have your casting stat, whatever relevant stat it would be, probably charisma if you're spontaneous casting, because most spontaneous casters use charisma, at least ones that do it for all their spells. If it's something like a cleric or a druid, then it's wisdom. But and I guess it could be intelligence too, or I guess a physical stat. I don't know of a way to cast with physical stats, but I suppose that's possible. Yeah, whatever your stat is, you can cast with that. And but you need to have like if it's an 8th level spell, you need to have an 18 in that. Now, say you have 8th level spell slots, but you only have a 17 charisma, and you're a sorcerer. Well, you still get those 8th level spell slots. It's just you can only cast 7th level spells in them because your stat isn't high enough. Now, I would highly recommend never putting yourself in this situation if you can avoid it. But yeah, it's something that can definitely come up. So yeah, but try to avoid that. It's bad when that happens. It's really bad when you can't cast your spells. Excuse me. But yeah, I think I've got pretty much everything covered with spontaneous spell casting now. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel for more D&D 3.5 content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you.